DonInLondon, hello. December 23rd, my video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol. Could have been anything. I never got round to drugs properly. Properly? Well, alcohol was my drug of choice, as it turned out. So, alcoholic in recovery one day at a time. So that was my substance, and my behaviour could be equally addictive around people, places and things. People, obsessed, falling in love, falling out of love, places, wanting to be a certain place, not wanting to be a certain place, and things, collecting obsessively, and then throwing them away because they just didn't do it for me anymore. So, I suppose a discontented soul in many respects. And what could I do about it? Well, I found I couldn't do anything on my own. It took a long time to get there, to a place where I said, okay, I can't stop my addiction on my own, either to substance or behaviour, or both. And that was the place of rock bottom. And we can visit rock bottom as many times as we need to. And if we are still alive after the event, then we have a chance. And that moment when I said, I can't do this on my own, was what saved me. But it took me at least 35 years of drinking to get there. And the good news is many people get there a lot sooner and say, okay, this is ridiculous, I can't keep on doing this and it's killing me. But even then, the trouble with addiction is, even though it's killing us, we can't stop. And if I couldn't stop myself, family, friends, professionals didn't seem to have much of a chance either, because there was something in me, the addict, whatever it is, when we cross that line from heavy abuser of a substance or a behaviour into addicted completely, and we can't get out of it, or I couldn't get out of it. And the moment of clarity, I can't do this on my own, which is what saved my life. And it was near death more than once for me, and I'm not trying to over dramatise it, it was just the way it was. And the good news is you'll hear that story over and over again from any addict who's trying to give it up. Self-will, run right, self-will, willpower has no real chance, because addiction is something we can't get over. And what a relief to let go willpower. I don't have to be right, I don't have to be wrong, I don't have to be perfect, I don't have to be imperfect. I can just be these days. And that's the general drift of where my videos go. It's all about being ourselves. And what's helped me more than anything over the last few years, is to understand I'm not alone. And whilst family, professionals and society kept me alive long enough to have my moment of clarity, and maybe you'll have to have another one as well, I tend to get a moment of clarity every morning with any luck. I'm still alive and kicking. What helped me most was fellowship, and the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And if alcohol isn't your thing, there's most likely some anonymous fellowship out there which can help. And we do it through sharing experience, strength and hope. The good news is we retain our unique, authentic take on life. We don't become something else other than unique and authentic. It's the true liberation, if you like, of being oneself without the need to fix. And the fellowship for me, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't speak for anybody in the fellowship. People speak where they wish, because they are unique and authentic, and they choose where they will speak. And I choose to share on a video simply because it helps me focus as a daily reflection on where I am today, and also maybe to share a message of hope for other people too, who are in the malady. This video is of no practical use to somebody who has not got the malady. It may be of some practical use if you have a problem with the person in your life who has got the malady of addiction. But you can't make him do it. It's the horse and water thing. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Or you can lead an alcoholic to a meeting of the fellowship of AA, but you can't stop them drinking. That's how it is. So what is AA and how does it help me on a daily basis? Well, I share some literature here. I share the AA preamble, which you'll hear off this little card. I don't I try not to memorise it, because if I memorise it, it's a recitation, and then I'm in trouble because I'm on automatic pilot. So fellowship is about not being on automatic pilot. It's about living in the moment. And I share from this book, Daily Reflections, and I'm now sharing from AA's big book as well at the moment, this one, because I have the time to do so. And my advice to you is, if you don't like something you hear here, switch off and go see real people in meetings of AA. It is the many voices in the rooms of AA who provide experience, strength and hope and wisdom of how to keep sober. So I am one voice, and it's not enough for anyone. This may be a bolt hole from time to time, but one voice is not enough, and you need to get your own unique, authentic voice back out of the addiction into the solution, if you like, of being sober a day at a time. So what is AA? Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So our primary purpose is recovery one day at a time, to be sober, a desire to be sober. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So that's it. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and make sure we don't trample on your values, beliefs and affiliations. So the good news is, in AA, you can belong to what you want to belong to and keep your sense of identity, or improve your sense of identity on a daily basis. Nobody in the fellowship is there to proselytise, as it's called, which is to convert you to their point of view about faith, politics, anything. Just there with a desire to stop drinking and share their experience, strength and hope. And when I share from the AA Big Book in a few minutes, it's really important, because whether you're a man or a woman, you'll find identification, whether you're a man or a woman, or it's a man or woman story. There is a great similarity in sobriety. We've moved from the problem into the solution, and whether we're male or female, it doesn't matter in relation to sobriety. But getting sober, it does have a big difference. I'll go on to that in a different video. Anyway, let's talk about December 23rd. Recovery, Unity and Service from the Daily Reflections. Covers the 12th step in December, obviously, 12th month, 12th step and 12th tradition. So it's all about helping our fellow alcoholics stay sober once they've got sober. So this particular piece, Recovery, Unity and Service, is about the Tradition 12, about fellowship and how it holds together. So recovery, unity and service is important. We call it the three-legged stool. Our 12th step, carrying the message, is the basic service that AA fellowship gives. This is our principal aim and the main reason for our existence, and that comes from The Language of the Heart, page 160. And when it says the language of the heart, it's about our emotional well-being. Language of the heart, emotional well-being, not our thinking intellect, which can keep us drinking for years. I thank God for those who came before me, those who told me not to forget the three legacies: recovery, unity and service. In my home group, the three legacies were described on a sign which said, "You take a three-legged stool, try to balance it on only one leg or two. And if you do that, it wobbles." Our three legacies must be kept intact. In recovery, we get sober together. In unity, we work together for the good of our steps and traditions. And through service, we give away freely what has been given to us. One of the chief gifts of my life has been to know that I will have no message to give unless I recover in unity with AA principles. And when it talks about principles, it's also the suggestions, which are the 12 steps and are the 12 traditions. we learn new principles of living, and they do work if we work them all together, but we need to learn, and on the way of learning, every day is new. So each set of principles around the 12 steps and 12 traditions is about continuous learning. We don't ever stop learning, or if we do, we tend to get stuck somewhere. And that's a great danger for anyone, whether they're an alcoholic or not an alcoholic, is to get stuck in our ways and not be able to change. All good and proper. And at this stage I share the Serenity Prayer, because in any moment, in any day, it can help me. And the Serenity Prayer is a matter of understanding as a meditation, reflection, or a prayer to God. So some of us are agnostic, some of us are atheist, and some of us believe in the God of your understanding. It's your unique or authentic understanding of what God is in your life. And it's important to know that at any time in one's life we can move from being unique and authentic, agnostic, atheist, or believer. And the Serenity Prayer works in all cases. It's an everyman reflection, if nothing else, to good conscience. So to God of good conscience, the Serenity Prayer: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and to wisdom and the wisdom to know the difference is just for today. And now I shall go on to the AA Big Book. I'm a bit discombobulated this morning. I was watching a programme on, well, a nationwide programme on what to do with Christmas presents which you don't like, or how to receive them without upsetting the person who's giving them, and all sorts of acting and denial and lies comes into their way of handling it. I have a better idea. If we actually said to a person, I love you, at the same time I don't like this present, but thank you very much, never got the receipt, they might be a lot happier than some sort of pretense. And if you stop pretending 1 year, next year you might get what you want, or you might actually get what you need. It may be nothing, or it may be something. But why on earth lie to a person and say, oh, thank you so much? We hurt their feelings more, and we hurt our own feelings more by telling lies. And one thing I've learned in recovery is I don't have to lie so often, or rather I prefer not to lie as often as I used to around things being okay. Because if I ask myself, how am I feeling today, and I'm not okay, if I pretend to be, and this is the thing for me as well, I don't believe in fake it to make it. I think that is a very dangerous policy. To pretend to like something or pretend to be okay when you're not goes against the grain in me. So I don't believe in fake it to make it, and anybody who's had a relationship in recovery knows you can't fake it, whether you're male or female, because there's no point. Or you just end up doing the same old things over and over again and nothing changes. You're still in denial. Now, in the Big Book, this is a story. It says, have I got it in the right place? No, I haven't. You can tell I'm discombobulated. I don't like the idea that, you know, national television is saying lie to people. We've had enough of that in politics. Don't get me started. Yeah, the keys to the keys of the kingdom. It says here, this worldly lady helped develop AA in Chicago and thus passed her keys to many. And the keys to the kingdom, or the keys of the kingdom for me is truth, love and wisdom. The kingdom of truth, love and wisdom is where we get real and we live reality. So sometimes it is called the kingdom, sometimes it's just called reality. A little more than 15 years ago, through a long and calamitous series of shattering experiences, I found myself being helplessly propelled toward total destruction. I was without power to change the course my life had taken. How I had arrived at this tragic impasse, I could not have explained to anyone. I was 33 years old, and my life was spent. I was caught in a cycle of alcohol and sedation that was proving inescapable, and consciousness had become intolerable. In other words, reality had become intolerable. And this is going back a long way. I was a product of the post-war prohibition era of the Roaring Twenties, that age of the flapper and the it girl. Well, of course, the it girl has been back for a decade or two in a different way in our magazines. But the same applies, of course. Most it girls have a problem, because if you're propelled into the stratosphere of experiencing the high end of life, and then how do you cope with the low end of life? That is, when you come down from whatever high you're on. The same applies, and it applies to boys as well. That age of the flapper and the it girl, speakeasies and the hip flask, the boyish bob and the drugstore cowboy, John Held Jr. and F. Scott Fitzgerald, all generously sprinkled with a patent pseudo-sophistication. To be sure, this had been a dizzy and confused interval, but most everyone else I knew had emerged from it with both feet on the ground and a fair amount of adult maturity. Nor could I blame my dilemma on my childhood environment. I couldn't have chosen more loving and conscientious parents. I was given every advantage in a well-ordered home. I had the best schools, summer camps, resort vacations and travel. Every reasonable desire was possible of attainment for me. I was strong and healthy and quite athletic. I experienced some of the pleasure of social drinking when I was 16. I definitely liked everything about alcohol, the taste, the effects, and I realise now that a drink did something for me or to me that was different from the way it affected others. It wasn't long before any party without drinks was a dud for me. I was married at 20, had 2 children, and was divorced at 23. My broken home and broken heart fanned my smouldering self-pity in a fair-sized bonfire, and this kept me well supplied with reasons for having another drink, and then another. At 25 I developed an alcoholic problem. I began making the rounds of the doctors in the hope that one of them might find some cure for my accumulating ailments, preferably something that could be removed surgically. Yeah, go for a surgical answer if there's no emotional, spiritual one. Of course the doctors found nothing, just as an unstable woman, undisciplined, poorly adjusted and filled with nameless fears. Most of them prescribed sedatives and advised rest and moderation. Between the ages of 25 and 30, I tried everything. I moved 1,000 miles away from home to Chicago and a new environment. I studied art. I desperately endeavoured to create an interest in many things. In a new place among new people, nothing worked. My drinking habits increased in spite of my struggle for control. I tried the beer diet, the wine diet, timing, measuring and spacing of drinks. I tried them mixed, unmixed, drinking only when happy, only when depressed. And still, by the time I was 30 years old, I was being pushed around by a compulsion to drink that was completely beyond my control. I couldn't stop drinking. I would hang on to sobriety for short intervals, but always there would become the tide of an overpowering necessity to drink, and I was engulfed in it. I felt such a sense of panic that I really believed I would die if I didn't get that drink inside. And, you know, that's a woman in her 30s, or a woman speaking about her 30s, but if you applied it to men in their 30s at the same time, okay, biologically they can't have children, but emotionally and spiritually they would be in the same place. I've experienced those feelings of utter devastation and desolation, and the only thing that seems to work is oblivion. And I did oblivion for a long time, because I worked so hard to improve my outlook. I worked everywhere. I'd do anything, and I would take up any hobby or interest. And once I got to a certain place of what more is there to learn about that, I would move on until I got to a place where every day was going to be the same old. Work, people, places, things, and especially drink. And it was me. I was the problem, not them. So these days I'm learning a day at a time what it is to be a human. Male or female, we all have the same emotional drives, the same spiritual understanding, one day at a time when we're in recovery. So moving from problem to solution, what helps me in any day is the serenity prayer to God of good conscience, as I mentioned earlier. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, for me, is just for today.